Have you ever wondered, what does love really mean? How to build a relationship that is not only lasting but also happy? Most women believe that men are simple, that all they need is food, sex, and a little peace and quiet. But the truth is far more complex. Men, just like women, have emotional needs they rarely speak of. Not because they don't feel deeply, but because they've been taught to hide it. Beneath the surface, even the strongest man silently hopes for one thing: to be truly understood and loved for who he is, not just what he can offer. So what do men secretly wish for in love but almost never say out loud? Let's uncover it. Welcome to Sophia's Knowledge channel, and my name is Sophia. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn about 7 things men always want from the women they love but never say. Be prepared, because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you rethink yourself and the relationships around you. Before we begin, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start with Sophia right now. Point 1. Being respected even when he's not perfect. Respect, it might sound like a simple word, but for a man, especially one in love, it means everything. While women often seek love, attention, and affection, what men crave most at the core is respect. Not just respect for what they do, but for who they are, especially when they are at their most vulnerable, most uncertain, and most imperfect. Men are raised in a world where they're taught to be strong, to be providers, to always have a solution. Society has conditioned them to suppress their doubts, hide their failures, and keep going no matter what. But beneath that armor, every man battles fears he rarely shares. He worries about being enough of a man, enough of a partner, enough of a success. And when he loves a woman deeply, what he secretly wants most is this: to be respected even when he doesn't feel like he's winning. He may not always know the right words. He might make mistakes. There will be times when he fails, not just in work or ambitions, but in the relationship too. And in those moments, your respect, your continued belief in his worth, speaks louder than any praise when things are going well. To respect a man when he's successful is easy. The world applauds him, and you're proud. But to look him in the eye when he's struggling, to stand by his side when he's doubting himself, and say, "I still see the man in you," that is powerful beyond words. That kind of respect builds an unshakable bond. It's not about pretending he's flawless, but about honoring the effort he puts in, acknowledging the intention behind his actions, and giving space for his humanity. What many women don't realize is this: when you show a man respect in his lowest moments, you don't just comfort him, you empower him. You give him the courage to rise again. You become his anchor, the calm in his storm, the quiet voice reminding him he's more than his paycheck, more than his mistakes, more than the pressure he carries. But here's the truth: respect is not just in words, it's in tone, in timing, in presence. It's how you speak about him to others. It's how you react when he opens up. It's how you listen when he needs to vent, not fix. It's in not using his weaknesses against him during an argument. It's in making him feel safe to be real. Sometimes, a man may retreat in silence not because he doesn't care, but because he's afraid of losing your admiration. He might push harder at work, get distant, or even become irritable, not because of you, but because deep down, he doesn't feel enough. In those moments, he doesn't need criticism. He needs quiet support. He needs your respect, not your solutions. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect in return. Respect must be mutual. But when love is real and he treats you with care, loyalty, and effort, even if imperfectly, respecting him means recognizing his good intentions even when the outcomes fall short. Men thrive in environments where they feel trusted and appreciated. When a man knows that his woman respects him, not just when he's admirable, But also when he's growing, he begins to flourish. He dares to be more, to lead, to love more deeply. He no longer wears a mask. He doesn't feel like he has to perform. He feels like he can finally just be, and that's where real intimacy begins. So, if you truly love a man, give him the gift he'll never ask for but always long for: respect. Respect his efforts, not just his results. Respect his dreams, even if they're still far away. Respect his silence, his vulnerability, and his journey. Because in the end, a respected man becomes a loyal man. A cherished man becomes a protector. And a man who knows you see the best in him, even when he's at his worst, will never stop trying to be the man you deserve. Have you ever been in a similar situation? If so, please share your story in the comments. I look forward to hearing your interesting experiences. And if you find this content useful, please like and share to spread the message to more people. Thank you for your support. Let's continue together. Point 2. A safe haven after the storms of the world. Every day, a man walks out into a world that expects him to be tough, unshaken, and in control. He faces pressure from work, competition in his career, responsibilities he silently carries, and the unspoken expectation that he must figure it all out. Even when he appears calm, even when he smiles, there is often a silent battle inside him, a weight that grows heavier the more he tries to carry it alone. What many don't realize is this. Beneath the strength men project lies a deep longing, not for someone to fix things, not for constant reassurance, but for peace. For a quiet place. For a soft landing. For a woman who feels like home. A man might never say it aloud, but one of his greatest desires in love is to find a woman who becomes his safe haven, the calm he runs to when the world has worn him down. Not because she takes his pain away, but because her presence softens it. Her energy doesn't add to the noise. It silences it. She doesn't demand from him when he's tired, she simply understands. When a man loves a woman deeply, he craves that space where he doesn't have to be on, where he doesn't need to perform, fix, impress, or compete. He wants to be able to sit in silence next to her and still feel connected. He wants to exhale, drop the weight, and just exist, knowing he is accepted, just as he is. This doesn't mean he's weak. In fact, the strongest men are often the ones who long for peace the most. Because they've spent all day fighting battles no one sees, making hard decisions, protecting others, solving problems, and hiding fear. And when they walk through the door, what they hope for, more than praise, more than passion, is peace. To a man, a peaceful woman is not passive, she's powerful. Her calmness doesn't make her soft, it makes her essential. In her presence, he doesn't feel judged. He doesn't feel like he's failing. He feels safe to be human. And that safety gives him strength. Sometimes, all he wants is to sit beside you in quiet. Or have you rest your head on his shoulder without words. Or hear you say, "You don't have to talk if you don't want to. I'm just here." Because in those small moments of stillness, something powerful happens, his guard drops. His soul begins to rest. And he feels closer to you than any grand gesture could offer. Being a man's peace doesn't mean you suppress your feelings, or that you become his emotional caretaker. It means you understand when to bring softness instead of storms. When to listen instead of interrogate. When to give him space, and when to gently pull him close. The truth is, many men walk away from relationships not because they stopped loving the woman, but because they never found rest with her. They felt like they had to keep proving themselves. That they weren't allowed to feel weak. That their moments of silence were misread as distance. So they shut down. And slowly, love turned into pressure, the very thing they were trying to escape outside. But when a man finds a woman who is his peace, he will protect that connection with everything he has. because he knows how rare it is. He may not say it in long paragraphs, but he'll show it, through loyalty, through presence, through effort. He'll come home, not just physically, but emotionally. To be a man's piece is not about being perfect. It's about being real, being present, and being kind. It's about creating an emotional environment where he feels like he belongs, not because he's always strong, but because he's allowed to be real. So if you want to truly connect with a man on a deeper level, ask yourself this: when he's tired, when he's drained, when he's quiet, do you bring calm or chaos? Do you add to the pressure, or do you offer release? Because in the end, a man will forget the words you said, but he'll always remember how he felt in your presence. Did you make him feel judged? Or did you make him feel understood? Did you exhaust him? Or did you restore him? Be the place he runs to, not the place he escapes from. Be his soft place to fall, not his battleground. Because when a man finds that kind of peace in a woman, he stops looking elsewhere. He stops pretending. He stops running. He stays. If you are still watching the video, do not hesitate to comment continue. Leave your thoughts and questions below in the comment section. I look forward to hearing your opinions, and do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that Sophia has more motivation to create more good and meaningful videos. Let's continue together. Point 3. Silent support. Not all love is loud. In fact, the most powerful form of love a man often desires is the kind that doesn't shout. It whispers in the background, steady and consistent. It's silent support, the quiet, unwavering presence of a woman who believes in him, even when he's not sure he believes in himself. You see, men are taught from a young age to be providers, protectors, problem solvers. They're expected to have the answers, to stay composed, to always move forward. And while many do this well, what often gets overlooked is how lonely that role can feel. Underneath the surface, even the strongest men carry doubts. Even the most successful men question their path. And even the most confident ones have days where they feel like imposters in their own life. But instead of voicing these fears, many men keep them hidden. Why? Because vulnerability has rarely been safe territory. They worry that sharing too much will make them look weak. Or worse, make the woman they love lose faith in them. That's why silent support is so deeply meaningful. It's not about cheering loudly or making grand statements. It's about the small, often invisible acts of belief. It's when you don't interrupt him mid-thought, but let him wrestle with his ideas out loud. It's when you don't question his ambition, even if the world calls it unrealistic. It's when you don't mock the passion in his eyes, but protect it, even when no one else sees the vision. A man may not always say it, but he knows exactly when you're with him quietly. He feels it when you defend him in his absence. He notices when you're the only one who doesn't panic when he's going through a storm. He remembers when you looked at him, not with doubt, but with belief, even when everything was falling apart. This kind of support isn't flashy, but it's transformative. Imagine a man building something, a business, a dream, a better version of himself. He's out there pushing, failing, adjusting. The world might laugh. Friends might fall away. But if he comes home to a woman who still believes, still respects, still encourages, even in silence, he finds the strength to try again tomorrow. You don't need to understand every detail of his journey. You just need to trust his heart. Your belief becomes fuel. Your silence becomes strength. Your presence becomes his reminder that even if no one else sees his potential, you do. And here's something most women don't realize: sometimes your lack of criticism speaks more than words of praise. Sometimes not questioning his every move gives him the space to grow. Sometimes your calm is more powerful than any advice you could offer. Because the truth is, men don't always need help solving things, they need to feel like they're not alone while doing it. Being a silent supporter doesn't mean you never speak. It means you choose when to speak, and when to simply hold space. It means that when he shares his fears, you don't immediately fix or correct. You listen. You validate. You remind him, subtly but surely, that he has what it takes. This kind of support is rare. That's why when a man finds it, he never forgets it. He cherishes it. And more importantly, he becomes loyal to it. Because he knows what it's like to be doubted. He knows the sting of being second-guessed. And when he finds a woman who gives him room to breathe, to grow, and to fail without shame, he sees her not just as a lover, but as a partner in every sense. Silent support is not passive, it's powerful. It's a love that doesn't need constant validation or attention. It's not performative. It's real. It's grounded in trust, patience, and emotional maturity. And the result? A man who thrives. A man who rises because he knows someone has his back, not with conditions, not with pressure, but with love. He doesn't need to look for approval elsewhere. He doesn't need to explain himself every day. He feels safe with you, and that safety gives him the courage to dream bigger, love deeper, and commit more fully. So if you want to hold a special place in a man's heart, don't underestimate the power of your silent support. Be the quiet belief that steadies him when life shakes him. Be the background strength that never wavers. Because while others may applaud his victories, you'll be the one who stood with him when there was nothing to applaud. And that, he will never forget. Point 4. Being himself without being judged. One of the most powerful gifts you can give a man isn't your beauty, your charm, or even your love, it's the space to be fully himself, without fear of judgment. In a world that constantly tells men how they should act, what they should suppress, and who they need to become, finding someone who allows them to just be is rare and unforgettable. Men grow up learning to perform. From an early age, they're told not to cry, not to complain, not to show too much emotion. They're praised for being tough, logical, and in control. But what often gets lost along the way is their permission to be human, to feel, to falter, to reveal their inner world without being labeled as weak or unstable. So what does a man long for in the woman he loves? The freedom to drop the act. He wants to take off the armor. Not because he's no longer strong, but because he trusts you enough to be seen without it. He wants to share his weird thoughts, his strange hobbies, his offbeat humor, or his silent struggles, and not feel like he's being evaluated every step of the way. When a man finds a woman who allows him to be authentic, who doesn't mock his vulnerability, question his masculinity, or try to shape him into someone he's not, he feels a level of peace that the world can never give him. In that space, he can breathe. In that space, he can heal. And most of all, in that space, he can love more deeply than ever before. So many relationships fall apart not because the love wasn't there, but because one or both partners felt like they had to be someone else just to keep it. Pretending is exhausting. Hiding your feelings is lonely. And constantly being measured against expectations that don't match who you are, it's quietly soul-crushing. A man wants to be able to say, "I had a tough day," without being told to man up. He wants to admit when he's scared or uncertain without feeling like he just lost respect in your eyes. He wants to laugh at dumb jokes without being called immature. He wants to have moments of silence without being accused of being distant. He doesn't need a coach. He doesn't need a critic. He needs a witness, someone who sees all sides of him and chooses to stay. Someone who understands that even strong men have soft moments, and even confident men carry hidden insecurities. Someone who embraces the whole spectrum of who he is, the bold, the broken, the brave, and the beautifully imperfect. Letting a man be himself doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior or ignoring red flags. It doesn't mean accepting disrespect. But it does mean creating an emotional environment where he doesn't have to be perfect to be loved. Where he doesn't have to earn your affection by performing a role. Where his humanity is met with kindness, not correction. And when you give him that, he gives you everything. Because once a man realizes he can be himself without fear of being judged or fixed, he lets you in, not just to the polished parts of him, but to the real parts. And that's where intimacy lives. That's where loyalty grows. That's where trust becomes unbreakable. He'll open up more. He'll take off the mask he wears with the rest of the world. He'll tell you about his childhood, his dreams, his regrets, his fears. Not because you forced it, but because you created a space safe enough for him to step into fully. And that space? It becomes sacred. Not many people get access to a man's true self. Most only see the version he's curated for the outside world. But when he gives you the raw, unfiltered version, the one he hides from everyone else, it's because he trusts you on a soul level. Don't take that lightly. So ask yourself, does he feel more like himself around you, or less? Do your words encourage him to open up, or do they make him retreat? Does he feel free to be silly, sensitive, ambitious, unsure, all in the same day? If the answer is yes, you are offering him something priceless. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, to be seen, known, and accepted as we are. Not just for what we do or what we achieve, but for who we are when no one's watching. Give him that freedom, to be himself, without masks, without edits. And he'll give you his heart, fully and without reservation. Point 5. A woman who communicates with gentleness. There's a common misconception that strength is always loud, that to be heard you must speak forcefully, and that influence comes from raising your voice. But for many men, especially those who carry quiet burdens and unspoken battles, the most powerful kind of woman is not the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who speaks with gentleness. Gentleness is not weakness. In fact, it takes emotional intelligence, maturity, and self-control to communicate with calm, especially when emotions run high. And that's exactly what many men secretly long for, a woman who knows how to talk to them with kindness, even during disagreement. A woman who chooses connection over correction and understanding over accusation. Here's the truth, men respond deeply to tone. You could be saying all the right words, but if the tone feels harsh, dismissive, or condescending, they will shut down. Not because they don't care, but because they've learned to associate raised voices and sharp criticism with judgment, not safety. A man may not say it, but what he truly values is a woman who knows how to express herself without making him feel small. Who doesn't use words as weapons. Who knows that how she speaks matters just as much as what she says. When a woman communicates with gentleness, she disarms his defenses. She allows him to listen without feeling attacked. She opens the door to honesty, rather than slamming it with blame. Her softness invites vulnerability. Her calmness creates safety. And her presence becomes a place where he doesn't need to win an argument, he just wants to understand and be understood. This doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations or walking on eggshells. It means learning the art of graceful honesty. Saying the truth with love, not with contempt. It means learning how to bring up concerns without turning them into confrontations. It means knowing when to pause, when to breathe, and when to speak from the heart instead of the heat of the moment. And when a man finds this kind of communication, it transforms the way he connects. He begins to trust her with parts of himself he never revealed before. He no longer hides his mistakes out of fear, he shares them in hope. He doesn't react defensively, he responds thoughtfully. Why? Because her gentle energy teaches him that it's safe to be human, even in conflict. Too often, women underestimate how powerful their emotional tone is in shaping the atmosphere of a relationship. When communication is filled with sarcasm, criticism, or emotional volatility, it becomes exhausting for a man to stay present. He may start to pull away, not because he's disinterested, but because his nervous system is constantly on guard. But when a woman brings softness, patience, and emotional regulation into the conversation, she builds a bridge instead of a wall. She shows him that love is not a battlefield, it's a partnership. And that even hard topics can be approached with empathy, not ego. This kind of woman becomes unforgettable. Not because she's always agreeable, but because she's balanced. She knows when to be firm and when to be flexible. She knows that emotional control is not about silence, but about wisdom. She's not interested in winning arguments, she's interested in building something real. And the man on the receiving end of this kind of communication? He becomes more emotionally available. He starts to lead with vulnerability. He mirrors her tone. He softens too. Because the safest place in the world for a man isn't always in silence. Sometimes it's in the presence of a woman who speaks with love, even when she's upset. So if you want to deepen your connection with a man, pay attention not just to your words, but to your delivery. Ask yourself, are my words creating understanding or defensiveness? Am I speaking to connect or to control? Do I leave him feeling heard or hurt? Because in the end, men don't just remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel while saying it. Be the woman who speaks with strength, not in volume, but in value. Speak in ways that nurture, not shame. And you'll find that your words hold far more power than anger ever could. Gentleness is not weakness. It's wisdom in action. It's love in motion. And to a man who has had to be strong for everyone else, it might just be the most powerful thing you can offer. Point 6. The feeling of being needed. There is something quietly powerful that every man yearns for but rarely says out loud, the feeling of being needed. Not in a way that burdens him or makes him responsible for someone else's happiness, but in a way that makes him feel valuable, purposeful, and irreplaceable in the life of the woman he loves. For a man, love isn't only about romance or shared moments, it's about significance. Deep inside, he wants to know that he brings something to the table that matters. He wants to feel that his presence makes a difference. That he is more than just nice to have around, he is essential, in his own quiet way. The world often tells men to be independent, self-sufficient, and stoic. They are raised to believe they should never rely on anyone, and at the same time, that no one should rely on them too much either. But the truth is, even the most self-reliant man wants to feel that someone in this world chooses to lean on him, not because they're weak, but because they trust him. When a woman gives a man that feeling, when she lets him know that he matters, that his opinions are valued, his efforts are appreciated, and his protection is felt, something powerful awakens in him. He stands taller. He becomes more committed. He starts to invest more, not because he's expected to, but because he wants to. Being needed gives a man direction. It gives him emotional purpose. It gives him the deep, quiet satisfaction of knowing he's not just existing in someone's life, he's playing a role that no one else can fill. This doesn't mean becoming dependent on him. It means inviting him in. Asking for his perspective on something that matters to you. Letting him help when you're overwhelmed. Reaching for his hand not only in affection but also in partnership. Trusting his strengths, even when they're different from yours. Sometimes, just saying, "What do you think I should do?" or "I could really use your help with this," means more to him than 3 paragraphs of praise. Because in that moment, you're telling him, "You matter here. Your presence brings me clarity. Your support makes me stronger." Men may act tough, but they feel deeply. And nothing touches a man's heart more than knowing he is a safe harbor for the woman he loves. Someone she counts on, respects, and believes in. Not because she's incapable, but because she chooses to include him in her life in meaningful ways. Many women are strong, independent, and self-sufficient, and that is something to be deeply proud of. But strength doesn't mean shutting someone out. Independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. In fact, one of the most beautiful things a strong woman can do is to allow space for a man to rise alongside her. Not to complete her, but to walk with her. When a man feels needed in a relationship, he doesn't feel used. He feels honored. It taps into his instinct to provide, to protect, to support. And when that instinct is activated in a loving relationship, it creates an unshakable bond. He becomes invested not just in the relationship, but in you, your growth, your dreams, your emotional world. He shows up more, listens deeper, gives more freely. Because he's not guessing whether he's needed. He knows. And in that knowing, he becomes more. But when a man feels unnecessary, when he's constantly reminded that you can do everything without him, solve everything without asking, and walk through life as if he's just an accessory, he may begin to disconnect. Not because he's weak, but because he's unsure where he fits in. And for a man who loves deeply, not having a place in your life is one of the most painful things he can experience. So if you love a man, and you want to connect with him on a deeper level, don't just show him affection, show him that he matters. Not with flattery, but with sincerity. Not with dependency, but with trust. Let him be the man he wants to be for you, the one who helps, who listens, who carries part of your burdens, and shares in your victories. Because when a man feels needed, not in a way that drains him, but in a way that empowers him, he becomes more than just a partner. He becomes devoted. Point 7. Unconditional love, even when he fails. Every man, no matter how confident he seems on the outside, carries a quiet fear deep within, the fear of failure. Not just failing in his career or his goals, but failing in the eyes of the woman he loves. You see, men are raised to believe that their worth is tied to their performance. Society tells them they need to succeed, provide, protect, and prove. That love is something earned through accomplishments, stability, and strength. And so, many men spend their lives chasing success not only to feel proud of themselves, but to feel worthy of being loved. But what happens when he stumbles? When his plans don't work out, when life knocks him down, when he can't be the hero he wants to be? In those moments, what a man longs for, perhaps more than anything else, is unconditional love. A kind of love that stays, not because he's winning, but because he's trying. A love that says, I see your heart, not just your results. A love that holds him when he's at his lowest, not just when he's at his best. Most men will never ask for this out loud. They won't say, will you still love me if I fail? Because they're afraid the answer might be no. And so they keep the pressure bottled up, they pretend to be okay, they put on a brave face, all while silently wondering if their value is conditional. That's why a woman who offers unshakable love, even in his moments of defeat, becomes unforgettable. She becomes his refuge, not just his romance. She becomes the place where he feels safe to fall apart, not because she'll fix him, but because she'll love him through it. Unconditional love is not blind. It doesn't mean ignoring his flaws or tolerating disrespect. It means choosing to see the man underneath the failure, the one who is still trying, still hoping, still carrying more weight than he shows. It means standing beside him when the world walks away. It means reminding him of his worth when he forgets it himself. Because when a man feels that kind of love, it heals something deep inside him. It tells him that his identity is not defined by his paycheck, his position, or his achievements. That even when life strips him of his titles and trophies, he is still enough. Still worthy. Still deeply loved. And in return, he doesn't take that love for granted, he treasures it. He becomes fiercely loyal to the woman who saw him in his darkest hour and didn't flinch. Who didn't leave? Who didn't use his failure as a weapon? Who stayed soft when it would have been easier to be cold? This kind of love changes a man. It humbles him. It awakens his protector instinct. It deepens his emotional commitment. Because he no longer feels like he has to earn your love every day, he feels safe to be authentic, to take risks, to grow without fear of rejection. And as he grows, he naturally becomes the best version of himself. Not out of obligation, but out of devotion. Not because he has to impress you, but because he wants to rise with you beside him. Too often, love becomes transactional. I'll support you if you succeed. I'll stay if you meet these expectations. But that kind of love is fragile. It only lasts as long as circumstances are favorable. Unconditional love, on the other hand, is resilient. It's the kind of love that says, I believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. It's the kind of love that holds his hand when his confidence is shaken. That whispers, you're not alone when the world feels heavy. That looks at the man, not just the moment. So if you love a man, don't just love him when he's thriving. Love him when he's tired. When he's questioning himself. When he feels like a failure. Because those are the moments that define the depth of your bond. He may not say it, but he'll feel it. He'll remember it. And he will love you in return, with a kind of loyalty and gratitude that runs deeper than words. Because in a world that only claps for winners, you chose to love the man, not just the success. And that, more than anything else, is what makes love last. Conclusion. At the heart of every man is a quiet yearning, not for perfection, not for endless praise, but for a love that sees him completely. A love that respects him even when he falls short. That offers peace in a chaotic world. That supports him without making a scene. That allows him to be real without fear of judgment. Men may not always articulate these needs, but they feel them deeply. They want to be needed, not in a way that burdens them, but in a way that makes them feel valued. They long for gentleness in communication, where honesty doesn't come wrapped in criticism. And above all, they crave a love that stays, even when they fail, even when they're uncertain, even when life doesn't go as planned. What men truly desire in the women they love isn't complicated. It's human. It's emotional safety. It's deep respect. It's quiet belief. And when a woman offers that, not through grand gestures, but through consistent presence, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she was flawless, but because she made him feel whole. So if you love a man, let your love be the kind that lifts rather than pressures, that understands rather than demands. Let him be seen in his rawest form, and still be worthy of your softness. Because when a man finds that kind of love, he doesn't just stay. He gives you every part of himself in return. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship, and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and sustainable love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspiring day.